so I can actually see what's going on. No, I don't. I'm going to stop sharing and share again. Okay.
Cool. So
Hello,
we have a
Donna.
week.
Hi there.
Really nice to meet you.
You too. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Donna. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm sorry I'm on a photograph. I swim in the morning and I look like a drowned rat right now. So I'm on Pacific time.
Okay. Awesome.
There's
Well,
And
Jeff.
thank you for joining us. Where did you hear about it, Donna?
Joe Colavita.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah, you and I exchanged a text message, and I've seen your post, and I'm very interested in what you're doing.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. And Joe has been very inconspicuous on LinkedIn of late. I think
He
he's doing a detox.
he actually departed to take a detox. You're right.
Yeah. When I asked him, I said, Joe, are you okay? And he said, yeah, I'm just doing this for myself. So
Yeah.
good on him. Good
I
on him.
actually offered to help increase awareness of what they're doing.
Hmm.
And I have known Dr. John Brunstetter for quite a while, but they're fine tuning their assessments at the moment. So I think that's the priority.
That's what I heard. Yeah,
Yeah.
Alana and I both have talked to Michelle and to Joe about it, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really great it's a great tool, and
Yes.
we're going
Hi,
to
Chris.
we're exploring it. So sorry,
Yeah.
who's there?
And
It's Coops.
Hey, Coops, you figured it out, eh?
I did. It appeared that I had a very old, I guess I needed a major update.
Okay, well, glad you've been able to make it. How you doing?
Yes.
You're still in Port? Are you in Port
Port Hope.
Hope? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. 10
Nice.
years this summer.
Wow. Yeah, I do remember your wedding too.
Yes. And that'll be 20 years this August.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know, eh?
And how many
Time
kids do you
flies.
have now, Coops?
We have two, a daughter, Pippa, she's in grade 6, and our son Foster is in grade 8, and
Okay.
he's 13 going on 14.
Okay. Not 13 going on 21?
No, I think the 12-year-old is 12 going on 21.
Yeah.
Her numbers are reversed.
Well, anyway, glad you figured out your technology issues and were able to join.
Yes.
So that's
Thank you.
awesome.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thanks for organizing it.
Hey,
I'll mute myself while you wait to start.
okay. Thanks, Coops. We'll talk later.
Cool. Bye, guys.
Uh, all right, everyone. We're gonna wait probably
Another minute?
at least another minute, maybe even 3. Hey,
Okay.
Joe, how you
How are
doing,
you?
Joe?
Long
Good.
time no chat. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
You know what? Woke up this morning, I smiled, have another day of life,
Beautiful.
right?
Every
Blessed. Blessed.
are you in Elmer?
I'm in Elmer, yes. Small little town with a
Beautiful.
big
Well,
heart. Small town, big heart.
that's beautiful. Well, I'm glad you were able to join. Looks like we've
Thank you.
got
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you. I appreciate it.
well, it looks like we've got a number of people that are jumping on now, so we'll give it a few more minutes. Um, but yeah, it's exciting. The thing is, you never know. You send these out, you get all these registrations, and you don't know who's actually going to show up or not. So anyway, we're really pleased. We will get underway in another 2 to 3 minutes. just wait for everyone to log on. Hey, Giselle.
Hi.
Oh, I see Leslie has also joined us. I feel like this is Romper Room. I see Leslie and I see Giselle, and I don't know if anyone knows understands the reference of that, but
I was about to say, I don't know if everybody knows Romper Room, Chris.
and I shouldn't, but I do.
All the squares pop up. It's like the Brady Bunch.
That's probably an easier cultural reference than
Yeah.
Romper Room. It's like I was having a conversation with a big tourism body in Maine recently, and they were asking, how do we get Canadian tourists back to Maine? And I said, well, you've missed a trick here. You don't understand who Mr. Dressup is. And I don't think many Canadians know that Mr. Dressup, who is the equivalent of our Mr. Rogers in Canada, was actually brought up in Maine before he became a Canadian citizen. I said, you've just got to promote that, and you'll get everybody who grew up with Ernie Coombs as Mr. Dressup suddenly having a lot of trust crossing that border.
Rusty the Rooster and Jerome the Giraffe.
And Finnegan. Can't
Oh,
forget
sorry,
Finnegan.
Casey and Finnegan.
Sorry, that was the Friendly Giant.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
had the Friendly Giant. I think he
Yeah.
actually, you think the Friendly Giant was born and raised in Canada, but Ernie Coombs, who's Mr. Dressup, was born and raised in Maine.
Good to know. I am now wiser for it.
Well,
How-
when I was little, had the great privilege of he visited the hospital that my father worked at. And so I was one of the non-residents who got to meet him. And I had his picture on my wall growing up. So, right.
All right.
Shall-
So we have got, I'm sure people are still going to be trickling in, but we're gonna get things underway. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for committing your time and finding out about the MentorWell. I'm pleased to be here with my business partner and friend, Alana Tart, who's joining us from Switzerland. So today we want to offer an overview of what the MentorWell is all about. So we're designating a bunch of time for questions at the end of the session. So if you have any questions that you'd like answered, I'm sure if you just drop it in the chat, we will get into it, and we will try to get to all those questions, provided we don't go way over. And anyone who would like a copy of the recording, we're happy to send that out as well. So,
on that
this,
on that note, it is recorded. So if you would prefer anything to be anonymous, we entirely understand. And we're very happy to entertain questions through email or have one-on-ones with you. Because there have been people who are not able to make it and have asked for this recording, but we're very respectful of privacy and confidentiality.
and if you do have a private question, a question that you are understand that you would like answered, but there's some sensitivity around it, and I get it. As a parent, it's we want to protect our kids. So if you do have a question and you want it kind of offline, if you could send it to an email to webinar@thementorwell.com, and we will answer it as soon as we can. Anyway, Alana?
I was just going to say the other thing just before we get into introductions of who we are is we are going to do our best to bring this to life. I really want
Are
you
you
to try to
guys
push
playing
us.
phone tag? Oh, hold on one second. It's
That's
Elaine
what
for you. Were you guys playing phone tag? You
I
call.
think.
Okay. All
I
right.
think Lisa may need to mute herself. So sorry, Lisa.
Oh,
So
sorry.
that's okay.
Sorry.
Don't worry. It happens. So we're going to do our best to bring this to life, but really do please push back if you feel we're not painting a clear enough picture. Because that's important, because we don't want this to just be a bunch of nice words that we're saying. So with that being said, who are we? Chris has asked me to start, perhaps because my picture is in color. My name is Alana Tart. I am a lawyer. I'm still very much a practicing lawyer, a lawyer here on MentorWell, as well as acting in my capacity as an ICF certified coach and mindfulness teacher. I am also a mom to a 12-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl. So I am right in the thick of it with any of the parents who are on this call. And I've seen how my two really benefit from having a trusted adult that's not me, that's not my husband. I'm going to use some examples today, and I tell you, if I use these examples, how I do with teens that we mentor, if I use them as a parent with my kids, they do not take them quite so well. They tend to tell me in not so polite terms, don't coach me, because it's a different relationship. And that's one of the things that we're going to touch on here is how mentoring and parenting are actually different relationships. And this is like your strong point, because suddenly you can add in another trusted adult relationship into the mix. But I'll go back to just my quick introduction on me. I'm very privileged to be trusted by Chris with the MentorWell. And I really believe, like him, that strong, grounded, caring adult relationships can shift the trajectory of a young person's life, particularly in today's world where they are so privileged, they have everything, and yet the complexity and the overwhelm and the disconnection are a marker of their generation.
And for those who don't know about me, this is a passion project. I was very fortunate that this has been an idea of mine for the last probably 18 months. And Alana and I have we've been talking for probably eight months. And upon our initial call over a Zoom chat, the idea of the mentor well really resonated with her, even though she has not had kind of mental health challenges or anyone close to her, friends or family. Well, I guess now she does with me. But I lost my 14-year-old daughter Maddie to suicide, and for the last 10 years, I've been trying to figure out how can I honor her? How can I help other kids? How can I ensure another family doesn't go through the the tragedy and the heart-wrenching sorrow that our family's gone through? So this is near and dear to my heart, and now it's near and dear to Alana's heart. But we feel that this is what our youth need right now. So I've been a coach of many sports for a number of years, including a trainer, but I've also mentored kids over the last number of years as well. And the difference is significant. And there's nothing that gives me more pleasure than seeing a a, a teen that was lacking confidence, and all of a sudden they don't need me anymore, or they're confident enough to figure out stuff on their own, and that is a win. And it's when your child feels that they can handle these tough conversations or aren't afraid to share what's going on in their life, that is where mentorship is meant to be. So I've talked about I've talked about Maddie. This is a tribute to her. And the one caveat that Alana told me when she came on board, she said, we will always ensure that Maddie will be our co-pilot on this project. And for that, I'm very grateful, because this means everything to my boys and I. And we may not have been able to save Maddie. However, I think the MentorWell's for Maddie and every teen like her. So we hope that we are going to be able to save lives, and more importantly, ensure kids flourish in life, because coping is just not good enough.
Chris just introduced us very briefly to Maddie, and if you want to know more of his story, please visit our website or follow his LinkedIn. Thing is, we sometimes think this won't happen to us, or that stories like those of Maddie are unique. But it's not. Because the vast majority of our teens are telling us that they feel alone. And alone doesn't look like isolation. It looks more like no one gets me. I don't want to be a burden. No one would notice if I didn't show up. It doesn't look like a crisis. It often doesn't look like they're acting out. They're always fine, but never really want to talk about it. And they laugh in a group, but they often avoid that eye contact when it's just you and them. So the best word that we can think of is that they're just stuck. And the problem is, stuck still hurts. It chips away at their confidence, and most importantly, at the sense that they matter. This slide is not to suggest that we're against therapy. Therapy is fantastic. For some people, it works extremely well. Some advocate it as a constant in their lives. If that's you, fantastic, go for it. But there are some for whom it is just not their fit, and they don't need a professional. They just need someone who shows up without judging them or trying to fix them. And every time that a teen senses that there is an adult who sees them, it rewires their sense of self. That connection, it changes everything, not just emotionally, but mentally.
So one thing we wanted to do some things very differently. Mentorship is intended to be something very different from parenting. It's not therapy, it's not coaching, it's not teaching. It's about it's about being present. It's about listening. It's about leaning in. We're about being empathetic. We're talking about how can we get kids to a thriving state over, as opposed to just holding on. And another aspect we want to talk about is kind of what real mentorship is like. What we want to do is we want to match mentors and mentees with appropriate people. People could be kids could be struggling with their sexual identity. They could be dealing with all sorts of challenges going on in their life. And by mirroring or having mentors to be able to kind of sit alongside of them, share their journey, be vulnerable, it creates trust and creates a strong relationship. The other aspect, uh, the other thing is we want to ensure that the teens are always measuring backwards. We want to talk about how we want to motivate them, how we want to encourage them, and give them some light. We always talk about goal setting, but goal setting when it becomes elusive or when it becomes difficult, we tend to check out. And then we also want to talk about kind of our kids' first mentality. We're not a babysitting service. We're not going to report back to parents on the teens, but we want to ensure that kids feel trust, because for them to feel comfortable in opening up, they have to feel trust. And if that trust can potentially be violated, we want to ensure that they feel safe, because if they can't open up, we're not doing our job.
Thanks, Chris. Chris has provided an overview. I'm going to go in a bit more depth on a couple of these and try and bring them to light in terms of how it happens. Empathy first. I don't know if there's anyone on this call who has been through or is going through divorce. I'm a child of divorce, so I actually know what it's like to emotionally be in that place of quicksand where you convince yourself you don't need anyone. You've got that level of self-reliance that's so often praised as being mature beyond your years. Whether it's divorce, bullying, low confidence, or other concerns, teens don't become guarded because they don't want connection. Whether they know it or not, they're doing it because they don't feel safe to need it. And that's why the first pillar of the MentorWell is empathy first. It's not advice, it's not fixing, it's not even encouragement. It's just, I see you, I'm here. I'm going to give you a real life example. And all of these things may sound small, but I promise you, they are enormous. So picture a 14-year-old whose parents divorced a couple of years ago. And she shows up to our first session together with her camera on, but her arms are folded, and she's like scrolling through her phone. She's not being rude. She's just disconnected. And she's agreed to be here, but there's a reluctance. So as a mentor, I don't jump straight into questions. Instead, I come up with something that we can do together that age appropriate may appeal, like make a smoothie. This can often be met by a shrug, but there'll still be participation, and that phone gets propped up as things get pulled from the fridge, and we don't have a deep conversation. We're just side by side on video, chopping fruit, and start swapping terrible smoothie combo stories, laughing about oat milk disasters. And then partway through, out of nowhere, she says, "My mom always forgets that I don't like bananas." That's the opening. And my response can be as simple as, yeah, that can be really frustrating. And we keep blending. That moment right there, that is empathy in action. That is not performance. That's not a technique. There's no analyzing. It's just presence without pressure. And that activity, that rhythm, that is giving that teen the space to choose connection, which is the point, because they do not want another adult talking at them. And until they feel safe, nothing is going to land. Not any wisdom I might have, not any encouragement, not any support. And that's what our mentors are trained to do. Hold that kind of space. They show up with empathy, they show up with presence, but without any judgment, pressure, or history. That is rare. Well, for anyone, in particular for a teen. So our first pillar is actually not just empathy first, it's empathy throughout. Chris touched on this as well, the thriving over coping. And I will be really blunt. This is something that in my work as a coach and a mindfulness teacher, I see daily in adults and teens alike. People showing up with their shoulders a little bit closer to their earlobes, their jaw tight, and just emotional numbness. Functioning, but not really living. Problem for our teens is that this survival mode, there's no space for growth. Now, I'll tell you what doesn't work when we have this. Resilience workshops and stress toolboxes. And I'm like a super fan of these. I give these. But these keep people, they keep our teens, they keep our adults in their heads because they're teaching concepts, not capacity. Real thriving, that starts when their nervous system gets the signal of, I'm safe. And that only happens in relationships. And it's not dramatic, it's ordinary. It's making a smoothie over a video. It's a quiet moment when that teen says something real and they're not met with advice, but with calm curiosity and steady presence. It's not a technique, it's not a fix, it's just someone who stays and believes that they can move through whatever it is they need to get through. Because resilience isn't taught. This is where this whole concept that resilience is a skill is going wrong. It is built in connection. It's not about removing the stress, it's about helping our teens feel capable of moving through it because they're going to have stress throughout their lives with someone who's beside them that believes they can. Resilience, actually, it's already inside all of us. It's just there that needs to be cultivated. So, and that happens when you have that steady emotional availability of someone who is not afraid of their mess. They gain emotional capacity, and over time, they stop reacting to life and start shaping it. And that's what the mentors are trained to do. That's why it works.
So real mentorship from real people. It's real people showing up in real ways. Um, our mentors are emotionally intelligent adults with lived experiences. They don't have a script. They listen, they ask questions, they have curiosity. They walk beside without judgment. It could be what we want to do is we want to ensure that we match our mentees and mentors with stuff that's going to be relevant to their lives. So it could be they went through a painful divorce. Their parents went through a painful divorce. Talking to someone who's never been through a divorce, well, that's really not an empathetic approach. It's not someone's going to be able to gain is going to be able to just make it up. You've either lived it or you haven't. It could have been struggling through a mental health condition, someone who may have had an eating disorder, someone who and has come out the other side. It's being able to have these real life-saving conversations in a not a clinical format or a clinical environment, but in a caring, empathetic, and loving one. And that's why we want to ensure the matching process for the mentors and mentees is so important. Um, and we can get into how we go about matching our mentees and mentors during the question period. Always measure backwards. This is something that I've learned. I'm a big fan of Dan Sullivan, who is a he's the owner of Strategic Coach. He he wrote this book called Gap in the Game, and it's most of us, adults included, we aspire to goals. The challenge with aspiring to certain goals is they seem at times unattainable, or they seem so far off and distant that we don't know if we can actually achieve them. And the challenge with that is it deflates us. Our goals are supposed to inspire us. They're supposed to propel us forward. But if our goals are actually having the opposite effect, then maybe we need to change how we actually approach it. Always measuring backwards means you have a starting point and you have a present state. By looking at where you are today and looking at how far your teen has come, they find it motivational. They feel like they're winning. They're feeling like they're accomplishing something. They could be halfway to their ultimate goal, but it still sounds really deflating because they're not there. So by taking a step back and looking at the progress and celebrating along the way, the other thing that I get into, I have my mentees put I ask them to put one win that they've achieved over the course of the day. And it could be, depending upon the day, they could have excelled on a test. They could have had a great conversation with their parents. It doesn't have to be this grandiose goal achievement. It can be something that just makes them feel seen, makes them feel heard. It also makes them feel confident and competent. And that's something that is so important for these kids to to feel confident and look back at the end of at the end of the week, or at the end of the week, month, or year, and go, wow, this is all the stuff I've accomplished. Then they've got this feeling of elation. They've got this feeling of confidence. They've got this feeling of achievement. That's where we want to get our kids to. Kids first. And this is an important one because people have asked, so will you report back how our kids doing? And the answer is no. We don't report back. It's not like report cards. We have a contract with our mentees. And what we say is, you know what? It's a one-way contract, in that I can't share with your parents what our discussion was about. But if you choose to share that with your parents, that's entirely your prerogative and at your discretion. But we will not. The only time that we want to ensure that your child, your teen, your young adult is safe. Anytime we feel that there is a compromise of one's safety, that is the only time that we will get involved. But there are a number of safeguards along the way to ensure that we recognize if we don't. But the best way for us to figure this out is leaning in and listening, and having your teen or young adult share with us, as opposed to trying to pull it out of them. Because we're not going to pull it out. They've got to volunteer it.
Thank you, Chris. And I'm also going to add that what Chris is talking about here in terms of protecting the privacy is completely in line with the ICF, the International Coaching Federation Code of Ethics, which is another reason why it's essential. We are not an ICF certified organization. I'm going to talk now about the difference between coaching and mentoring, but we really do draw upon best practice from all of the different organizations that are out there, including the ICF. Okay, so what is mentoring compared to other modalities? And as I suggested, I mean, I'm a mindfulness teacher and I'm a coach, so I know two of these very, very well. Teaching, I think, is generally, we can easily get our hands around it, but everybody these days tends to be calling themselves a coach, so it does get a bit confusing. Teaching involves subject matter expertise to solve a defined problem. So and we don't offer these yet, but at the moment we're just doing one-to-one mentoring. But when we do offer a few of our more group type projects, then that's more teaching. And that is what I was talking about. Often it's more cerebral. And so there's a time and a place for it, but it's definitely not the straight fix, as I suggested before. Coaching is actually defined by the ICF, the International Coaching Federation, as a creative partnership that helps clients maximize their potential. It does not offer advice, so it doesn't give direction or personal input. And that is different from mentoring because it is a non-hierarchical relationship, whereas when you've got a youth and an adult, it by nature is hierarchical, and it should be, because that is actually what that age group is needing. We will, and I'll get to this in a moment, at MentorWell, we do incorporate some coaching techniques, but no mentor is acting as a professional coach. in their capacity as a mentor. Therapy, it focuses on healing and diagnoses and restoring mental health. They're licensed practitioners. And although mentoring may have emotional conversations, it is definitely not therapy. And the focus very much is present and future oriented. At MentorWell, mentoring is a bit of a hybrid approach between coaching and mentoring because it draws upon the traditional mentoring elements of having someone that has their personal experience. I mean, Chris really talked about matching mentors with people who have with mentees so that there's shared live experiences so that any guidance that may be offered or strategies suggested are tailored properly to what the mentee is looking to have. But our mentors also incorporate coaching techniques to help the teens build self-awareness, confidence, and resilience, which I've already talked about. This often includes powerful questioning, active listening, and helping them explore their strengths, as Chris discussed, and decision making, as Chris also discussed.
So the difference between where mentoring sits in the difference between parents and therapy, we act as a bridge between parents and therapy. And so let's take an example. When your child 13, all of a sudden, up until this point, you've had this angelic child who's done everything, has never pushed back, and all of a sudden they resist. They they push back. They're not just taking what you're saying as the gospel truth. What they're doing is they're exercising their independence, their autonomy. And where most parents go, oh, this is like the crazy teenage years, we look at that as an opportunity. We refer to it as the thriving zone. That gap between parenting and therapy, there's an opportunity there. Most parents run in the other direction or don't try to, or they don't want to deal with it. But this is where mentoring can really be an assist to parents because they they don't necessarily want to have the emotional conversations. Well, they can have the emotional conversations. Unfortunately, it escalates often. And what we are is we're like a we're like a teen Sherpa. We'll help to shepherd your teen forward, being able to handle certain life challenges. But we don't find out what those challenges are unless they share those with us. So that's why this is so important. And there's a disconnect at that point often between parents and their teens, and having that go between is something that the parents, it's a support for parents, but more importantly, it's a support for the teens as well.
Yeah. I'll talk about emotional intelligence, but Chris is touching on there can sometimes be a disconnect with parents and teens. And I mean, that's really hard to hear as a parent. You never want to think that that could exist. And society seems to often tell us that we're somehow failing as parents when that's the case. I actually completely disagree with that. I know as a parent, I'm not neutral. And that's the point. Whereas a mentor actually is a neutral space where there's no pressure. So unfortunately, just by the nature of being a parent, our children desperately want us to fully love every single thing about them. And that in itself creates a pressure in the relationship. So helping them, emotional intelligence is actually really important to help them navigate that. It helps, in fact, emotional intelligence is this core area which is essential, particularly moving forward in our fast changing technology world in terms of we're talking about jobs, etc. Like this is our core area. And we have on this slide the four main areas that we concentrate on. So recognizing, understanding, regulating, and relating, which is where we've got the empathy and social awareness coming in. We help teens build these capacities, not by telling them what to do or what to feel, but by being the kind of adult who models this in real time. We also ask what are called powerful questions, reflect back emotions with neutrality, offer language, not labels, create room for self-awareness, and stay in it with them, not above them. Now, I'm going to give you a couple examples here which do not work for me as a parent. Do they work when I'm actually with someone else's teen? Yes, they won't work as a parent, or at least I haven't figured out how to make them work for me in my parenting. But if we're having a moment where I can sense that there is a bit of tension or emotional energy in the interaction, and the teen just starts to twitch their mouth a bit, I might say, your mouth twitched there. Maybe that was important to you. Do you want to go back to it? That sounds really small, but that actually is building emotional awareness and regulation and subtly modeling repair and self-awareness. Or how about when a teen says, well, it was just whatever, I don't know. And as a mentor, we can gently offer, well, sometimes whatever, maybe it means you feel tired or overwhelmed or just like done with all of this. Does any of that feel right? That's a non-pushy vocabulary boost, offering labels without insisting that they use them. That is EQ in action. That is how you actually get EQ into someone, not by going through the kind of presentation we are right now of PowerPoint slides and being talked at.
So is your teen or young adult a fit for the MentorWell? Well, Alana's already addressed the fact that, yeah, we're not a substitute for therapy. We never intended that to be the case, but we could be a complement. If your teen is seeing a social worker or psychotherapist or psychologist, we could work in conjunction with therapy. But the bigger opportunities are navigating some quiet storms that a lot of your teens may be going through unknowingly, unbeknownst to you guys. And that could be navigating a separation or a divorce. It could be the consequence of that having to change homes or having multiple homes. It could be a friend who if they have they been they're getting bullied. It could be along the lines of are they confused about their sexual orientation, and do we have mentors can help to guide them and just make them feel more confident and more secure. Going back to that fine but flat is we're not looking just for surviving mentality or coping. We want them to flourish. Our goal is to have them thriving and be happy, be assertive, and and that that confidence as you gain are things that they'll be able to carry with them that to date they're not sure how to do. And that's what we want to do is we want to give them the confidence to be able to address some of the stuff, the scary stuff that's going on in their life. So this is a big one, and I call upon this a lot. As a parent, we have a sense when something is off. We have a gut check that we're not getting the entire picture. Are our kids just telling us enough to get us to back off? um, because they are very good at manipulating and being chameleons. So we have to be able to identify that. And unfortunately, they are more chameleon-like in front of their parents than they are with mentors. What we hope to be able, what we will do is get your kid to a place where they are thriving. And that is our goal. So they can have a step up on when they graduate from university, understanding conflict resolution, understanding emotional regulation, understanding what their emotions mean. That stuff is just not taught. It is learned and it's absorbed through life. But if we can give our kids a head start, a springboard to get ahead of everyone else, it's only going to serve them better in the long run. So I guess the point is, if you sense something is going on with your teen or young adult that they're not necessarily sharing with you, trust your gut, because your gut as a parent rarely lets you down. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open up to questions.
There is one in the chat, and I wouldn't mind taking it because I feel I'm positioned. So
Okay.
I'm not going to call out someone's name unless they want to be called out. But the question is this: can an absent father, having seen his son only briefly during summer holidays, and now his son being 17 years old and understandably rather furious at the father, still fix the relationship, and how? So the reason why I say that I would like to take this question is I may not be a son, but my father decided to exit my life around 12. I mean, he exited before then, but completely exited around 12. Can an absent father therefore fix? Yeah. I mean, I strongly believe, and evidence shows that there's no such thing as completely an irreparable relationship. But it generally is not with words or promises. It tends to start with full accountability, humility, and zero pressure for forgiveness. Some of the things that we were talking about in this presentation in terms of steady presence, showing up, staying calm in the face of whatever is that furious anger, and just expecting, as a parent, expecting nothing in return. Because trust isn't usually rebuilt through speeches, it's earned slowly and showing that you can still be counted on even if it wasn't the case before. How do I believe a mentor can help? Well, this is messy. I mean, and it's confusing and it's hard to sort out. So a mentor can often give the teen the space for them to sort out how they really feel without having to protect the adult in the room or protect that child that felt abandoned. Because often when that 17-year-old or 40-something-year-old in my case is trying to protect themselves, who they're really protecting is whoever that little being was at the time that the abandonment happened. And the mentor doesn't take a side or try to fix the family. They're just simply there, modeling what a safe, stable adult relationship looks like, which can help the teen make sense of the pain and set boundaries, because they're going to need to. It's not just the adult that's setting boundaries here. And always remember that it's not their fault what happened. They were the child. So to whoever's here, I don't know if you agree or disagree, but strongly when it comes to this situation, it is not the fault of the child. And also, so the child understands they don't have to carry it alone. And who, at whatever age they were when the rupture happened or the parting of ways in terms of the parenting happened, that child who's still very present, probably inside them, does not have to carry it alone. I'm not sure if that resonates, and I hope it answers the question. If you'd like a follow-up, I'm very happy to do so. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? If you don't want to put it into the chat box, you can take yourself off mute and ask the question yourself. Otherwise, please feel free to put any questions you have in the chat box.
We've got another one, Chris.
Okay.
I'm going to read it out. Let me know if you want to take it or you want me. I think it's a really thoughtful question, and I really like it because I also had talked about how coaching is non-hierarchical, but mentoring is hierarchical, and it's an adult teen relationship. So this individual says, I currently volunteer mentoring students and have learned that building trust often comes from listening and relating like a friend. I want to maintain that strong connection, but also keep clear boundaries as their mentor. How does your program help mentors balance being approachable while staying in a professional role? Do you want me to take that or do you want to take that, Chris?
No, I can do that. And you know what? It is individual to each child. Um, they may be suppressing or repressing a lot of emotion. The how do we keep that line? Whether they open up in the first session or the fifth session, it's one of those things that we're not going to continue to push and push and push. If they don't want to volunteer, we're not going, if they're not willing to share with us, then we haven't done a good enough job in building enough trust with that child. So it could take 15 minutes before someone actually puts their hand up and says, well, this has been bothering me. Or it could be the third session and they just go, well, you know what? I'm really having challenges with my dad. And I'm not sure how to fix it. So there are, we're not forcing the issue. What we're trying to do is we're just trying to make sure that the teen is comfortable and over time is able to share what's going on. It doesn't necessarily happen in the first meeting, and it may never happen. It depends on how deep the connection is and how deep the issue is. So
I'm gonna
um,
I'm gonna try and concisely take it in a slightly different angle too, because the question really had the word friend really popped out at me. So I want to say first, it's relational, not reciprocal. And friends tend to be in the mix. Often, it's more of a reciprocal relationship, and there's a completely different energy there. Does not have the same boundaries. So part of it as a mentor is, I'm not joking, how you are holding your body in that space, how you're holding your voice in that space, how you are having, you're very strongly there, and yet it is not a reciprocal relationship. Teens need to be fully themselves without having to take care of you in return. And friends, you take care of them in return. You're not there to be liked. You're there to be safe, consistent, and in their corner. And those are key differences in terms of being a friend. You can build a huge amount of trust by being that incredibly steady presence. We have quite a few more here, so I'm gonna do our best. So,
uh,
yes,
actually, Scarlett has. Can I ask a question verbally,
she
Scarlett?
did. But
Of
Hillary was
course you
first.
can, Scarlett.
She can, yeah. Hillary
Keep
was
keep
first saying, do the parents get to meet their child's mentor at the first session? Yes. So that's not secretive. The actual contract is a three-part contract. So it's what happens in the sessions, which are private to the teens. Scarlett.
Hello, hello. a couple, was it a year ago? I was doing a bit of mentorship work with a group of teens, and with one, there was a couple of safeguarding issues that arose. I'm just wondering in that event, what do we have any pathways in place? Do you guys have any pathways? Is there a support network for us, for the teens? Has that been implemented?
Sorry, Scarlett, is the question, are there resources for
Yeah,
parents?
I mean,
Yeah,
so as somebody who's mentored teens before, my own company has safeguarding pathways,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I mean, I'm based in the UK. I don't know how international this scheme is, because obviously every country has its own legislation and so on. And I'm just wondering
oh,
where you
Scarlett.
guys stand on that.
Oh, that as the lawyer, I love that question.
Sorry,
Well, I was going to
bring it
answer
all
it.
down, eh? From all the nice, wholesome stuff. What about safeguarding?
Chris, you go ahead and answer, but
Yeah,
yeah, that's why we have
yeah.
slower international expansion.
I, Scarlett, thanks for the question. The challenge, and I'm going to answer this because I went down that road with one of my mentees, and I was trying to act as a mediator between the parents and the mentee. Wrong. That's not a good approach.
No.
So we've taken a very, that's why the kid first approach works for us. And if there is a parent who, let's say, feels that this is all on the teen, and let's face it, there's a lot of parents who feel it's not their issue, it's their child's issue. Um, Sometimes we need to take a good look in the mirror, and we have relationships with parenting coaches that specifically deal with parents. So that absolves us of acting as that uncomfortable mediation between the child and the parent. And that way we can fully advocate on behalf of the teen.
Okay.
Hope that answered it to some
Um,
extent, Scarlett.
from a
Thank you.
legal point of view, Scarlett's absolutely correct. There is safeguarding legislation. Every province in Canada, I believe every state in the US. It's more national in the UK as opposed to jurisdictional. And yes, that is a core part of the mentor training and is there as something to help. So there's an escalation process too. So the legal compliance component is critical and why we at the moment are Canada based, but not because we don't want to service outside, but because we have to make sure all those points are really clearly done.
Got it. Thank you, guys.
A pleasure.
Uh, so my son is resistant to anything his father or I suggest to help him, often saying he doesn't need help, therapy, etc. What's the best way to approach the topic of mentorship without making him immediately go, I'm not interested or it won't help? I guess my my answer to this would be we're not therapy. We're not a teacher. Probably the closest thing we come to is a coach. So maybe if they have a really good experience with a sports coach or a music teacher or an art teacher, and if you equate it on that level and say this is someone you can sit with, and if you have challenges that you can't talk to us about, these are people that have real life experiences, have encountered a lot of things over the course of their life, and they will be able to help you. And the beauty of having a pool or a well of mentors is the fact that we can draw upon all sorts of different experience. So if there is someone who is ADHD, we will be able to partner up someone who has ADHD or how they've managed to adjust. It depends on what the individual's. It's like getting a customized teacher to address some of the challenges that they're facing in their life. And if there's things that they really would like to talk to someone about, that affords us some flexibility because we do have this mentoring pool that we can draw upon. So, um, to answer your question, I'd say what do they have to lose? If it would, if we can make them happier, or if we can make their relationships more vibrant and brighter, would that not be something that they might find compelling or interesting?
I'm gonna build on what Chris just said there because my kids have mentors. And my son, and I got onto this when my son was really had a bullying situation where his teacher absolutely humiliated him. First off, the word help doesn't help. He would hear that there's something wrong with him. And at that point in time, he really did not want to hear that there was anything wrong with him because that's what the teacher was basically saying. So he did not want therapy because in his mind, no matter what I would have said about it, it would have just compounded the message the teacher was trying to tell him that he was broken. What did he want? He just wanted what Chris suggested there. It was like, dude, do you want to do something that actually starts making you feel a bit better about this? Because I know that I'm here to love you as totally and to be here and stand up for you. But I also know that our relationship dynamic is never going to be one that's completely like free, just free and light and fun at all times. I said, wouldn't you like to hang out with an adult who asks nothing of you other than just to be with you? And they started off their first times playing video games together. To be honest, they had like 3 sessions of video game playing. And after that, my God, my son's confidence just started coming back. He just returned to us. So it was played off of where he was at, that he had quite an anxiety spike. But yeah, the word help doesn't help. Any suggestions that they may need this in order to like fix anything doesn't help. Getting it back to, hey, like, wouldn't you want to feel great, like Chris is saying? That did work. So, and also making it completely their choice. I mean, they're wanting to have a level of agency and a level of autonomy and control over their life again. And so if we can somehow make it so it's their decision, that starts giving them control, which is why it's absolutely essential that the mentoring contract that we have is parents, teen, or young adult, and then the MentorWell, because they need to be bought into that. They need to feel like that's their choice. It's not a perfect answer. Do follow up with us if you'd like more support with that. The next question is actually very easy to answer, which is there an upper age of effectiveness for the MentorWell? No, there's not. At some point, you may want to consider, I say this, but you may want to consider something like coaching, just depending on what it is that you're looking at. But no, we have people that go into their early 20s. Chris, do you want to build on that?
Just the fact that, yeah, the age varies from probably pre-teens up to kind of mid-20s. And the challenge about someone in their mid-20s is very different than someone who is 12. They're thinking about, how do I get a job? How do I get to this next part of my career? There's a lot of confusion. There's sometimes embarrassment or shame. It's whereas the a 12-year-old might be looking at things, they'll be looking at things very differently. This is a whole new world for them. So uh, just reiterating what Alana said. So we do have the capability up to mid-20s, and quite frankly, we probably have the capability of going beyond that. But if you don't put a parameter on it, we don't want to be coaching 45-year-olds trying to find their next career. It's not our area. It's not our specialty. So I hope that that answered it, Jeff.
Okay, we have process of becoming a mentor and fees.
Which one do you want?
Go for it, Chris. Either one.
Okay. So more about the process of becoming a mentor. So we've had a number of mentors who have applied, and and to be honest, we have, and this is on me. We thought when we did a soft launch, April 11th, we thought, oh, you know what? It'll be a gentle thing, but it has been a overwhelming overwhelming response to what is offered. And we feel that um, we have probably 100 mentors who have applied, and there is a mentor intake form. And I've been, due to technology issues, I haven't been able to respond, but we've figured out our technology. So if there's any mentors on the call or potential mentors, please drop me a note or drop webinar at thementorwell.com, and we will be sure to follow up.
So we
The
have
fee.
fees, and we have one other quick one, which I'll do because I answered it, but really quickly. Is mentoring always in person? It can be over Zoom. I mean, that totally depends on who people get matched with. I'm in Switzerland, so anybody I work with is over Zoom, just because I'm fully Canadian, 100%, but that's not possible for me to pop over in person. Chris, you often meet with people in person, but it depends on who you're matched with, and that's most important.
Yeah, and there's also got to be a comfort level for the parents as well as the teen, right? And that's something that can be established um, over time. Yes, I have met with a number of my mentees in person, and definitely it facilitates a faster relationship, builds the trust easier, especially because you can take on things, you can look at things like body language, you can look at eye contact, the way they're speaking, and you can deal with them accordingly. Although online mentoring is equally proven to be a real asset as well. Um, so
I was going to
either can be
challenge Chris
done.
on all of what he was saying there. I just can't see the feet. That's all.
Yeah.
But yeah, keep going, Chris.
No, I'm done.
Okay. um, fees.
You want to go on? You want to go for that?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. Push it over to me. Uh, this is not a volunteer service. This is, although we have great intentions. One of the things that we are a fee for service. We offer individual one-on-ones. We will get to group, and we also will have a library of material that people will have access to. Um, the challenge is, sorry, I just tripped myself up here. Isn't the parents are okay? I just had one of those mind melts. Sorry, Alana. Do you want to? Oh, sorry. The one thing I did want to say. So this is fee for service. Our intention is we want to put a foundation, a charitable foundation attached to it, because right now it's fee for service, and we are eliminating a lot of potential mentees that can't necessarily afford the the mentor relationship or the MentorWell relationship, but doesn't mean they don't need it and they're not deserving of it. So the intention behind the foundation is to be able to bring mentees, have it either subsidized or paid in full, so everyone can actually benefit from the MentorWell, and it's not just a paid service. However, that is something that will that will take place over time. It does take a lot of time to be able to facilitate something along that line, but I'm addressing this with some philanthropic consultants, and they've got some very interesting strategies that will help us get there.
I have another answer to that too, though, which is regardless of how you access the support, I hate to say it, you need to have skin in the game because it has to be a commitment. And I know
Yep.
this because I have a lot of adult coaching clients too. And that one's very interesting. If you don't have skin in the game, the transition, unfortunately, just doesn't occur. And I wish I didn't have to say it, but adults are probably even worse than teens. And so there's something about having made that commitment. And so although Chris is talking about talking about a scholarship-oriented foundation, that's still got to be there as skin in the game in terms of people still have to earn their place into it. Because if they don't, then they may just take it for granted and blow it up and they will not have the commitment. And you need your team to have the commitment because this is not an adult pulling someone along. It just like in a coaching relationship, the coach cannot create what the coachee wants. It's a sad reality of our own human psychology.
So there's Emily.
Way of set up some mentoring in a school setting. Unless there's a school contractual barrier, not a problem.
We've been asked to be resources for schools as well as corporations as well.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other questions unless we've missed one. I don't believe so. If you do think of something you'd like to ask, once again, email us at webinar@thementorwell.com, and Alana and I will get back to you as quickly as possible. And if there's nothing else, we really appreciate you taking time and learning about this really invaluable service. We think it is what kids need today.
Thank you all so much for your time. I know that it was taking out either the middle or end of your day, and it's really appreciated.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Alana.
Appreciate it. Take care,
Thank you.
everyone.
You too.
Thank you.
And
Bye-bye.
if anyone would like a copy of the presentation, please leave your name in the chat, and we'll make sure that we will get you a copy when it's available. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We had a few people in the chat, Chris, who asked for one, and I'm so scared of losing this chat by closing this down. So we have Lisa Huffman and Leslie who asked for recordings. I'm going to stop recording.